I am staring at the face of Yoda right now, trying to think of something funny to say.
Honestly, man, that might be it.
Do you think...
Welcome to Direct-to-Video VHS?
VHS.
A podcast where we pair movies like fine wine. Continuing in our Talking Animal season, we watched Secret of NIMH.
Mm-hmm.
A movie that, if I had to describe it to somebody, I'd just say really feels like an 80s animation movie.
Oh, yeah.
If you watch this, you'd be like, yeah, this feels a lot like all the other ones like this. Which isn't a negative thing. I feel like the 80s had a lot of, really weird, kind of esoteric and beautiful animation come out of it.
110%.
It makes me concerned for watching the sequel that came out in 1998, to be honest.
It's gonna be a bit of a drift. A little bit of a hard left turn. And I don't know if we'll survive it, or if this franchise will survive it.
There is a specific reason that I feel like this movie doesn't work.
Yeah. Oh, hit me with it.
It's just one specific reason. So, okay, it has to do with the twists of the movie. Should we go until we get to the twist and then we can talk about it? Or should we just drop what the Secret of NIMH is so that we can, put the tiger on the table and stare at it? Yell at it? Do something with the tiger.
All right. I have my own kind of suspicions, but I think we should just... It's so hard to talk about the plot of this movie because for all intents and purposes, the plot of this movie is we gotta move a cinder block brick from the middle of a field to the edge of a field.
Can I be honest? I love the plot of this movie for that reason. The plot...
The stakes are so low, and yet they've never been higher.
The plot is that this I never
widow,
wrote down her name.
Mrs. Brisby.
That this widow, this single mom mouse, Mrs. Brisby, her son has pneumonia, which is hilarious because when she described the symptoms to the doctor mouse, whose name I also don't remember, but I have Aegis, is it?
Aegis, yeah.
When she described the symptoms to him, she just described a fever, and he told her he's got pneumonia, and I was like, where'd you get that, man? It's fine. But the plot is that her little boy's got pneumonia, and he can't move in time for the tractor to come through and not kill everybody. So she has to figure out a way to get him moved. And it's not exactly low stakes, because you're right. It's low stakes, but also very high stakes. Unlike a lot of these older animations and Don Bluth movies, the stakes are so relatable.
Yeah. I think there is something to be said about the fact that more so than any Don Bluth movie we've ever seen, this is a movie. This
is a movie, and I mean, to be fair, you could make an argument that Anastasia's a movie, but this is a movie though. This is a movie. It's really contained. There's my one big issue with the plotting of this movie is that almost at the very last minute, they're we need to introduce a hero and a villain. And we need to plug their character arcs into literally the last 20 minutes of this movie.
Now, to be fair, it's kind of awesome.
It's so...
No, because my problem with this movie is that something happens in the last 5 minutes of this movie, and while I think it's sick, I'm also I don't think this is this movie.
All right, okay. Actually, let's talk about it, because this was my big issue. So, I want to, we can go through the movie bit by bit, but first I want to say, what is the Secret of NIMH? Well, Andy, do you know what NIMH stands for? Because I don't think
it stands for the National Institute of Mental Health.
Great. in the National Institute of Mental Health, because I did not see that, and I was waiting the whole time for them to say what NIM was.
They say it. It's. I gotta say, this is pretty good. They during a conversation between the farmer and his wife, she mentions that the National Institute of Mental Health called, right, and leaves it to you to connect the dots.
Yes. That's the first time before you even know the secret about the rats, because they're calling about the rats. So, way before this movie, unclear how long before this movie, but a while before this movie, a bunch of rats and a few mice were in the National Institute of Mental Health. They got injections that made them smarter. We'll put a pin in that concept for a second. Put a pin in that. Because we gotta come back and talk about it.
Yeah.
And they escape, and they make like they manage to make their own little society. We'll again get to that during the actual movie. My issue is that on top of that, Nicodemus, the main rat, who throughout the first half of the movie I assumed was a dude, like a human guy, and I was like so intrigued why this human guy cared about this mouse so much.
Oh man,
I was on it. Honestly, made the movie for me.
Hold on. You saw those hands and you were like, that's a human man?
I thought he was a withered old man. Yeah, I didn't think it was a Master Splinter. The fact that he's a withered old man is also very weird because he explicitly states that they don't age.
Well, God, I got so much lore to drop on you. Okay, we'll get there.
But this is the thing. The big twist in the movie is that it turns out it's like a near future science fiction about giving rats super intelligence, or human level intelligence, really.
Yeah.
But Nicodemus has a magic gem. And he never says where he got it from, and he never says why it exists or why it reacts to pure hearts.
Here's the thing, is he got it from Jonathan, which still doesn't explain anything.
Yeah, great. Thanks, John.
Jonathan, a character whose like presence weighs on this movie like a lead balloon. It's kind of awesome, but we'll get there.
I love Jonathan because all anybody cares about when they meet his widow is that she was married to him. And it's like, she doesn't even know he had a secret life.
She doesn't even know. So the thing is that I kind of love this and I kind of hate this. At the human level, a thing that the rats understand, but is kind of obfuscated through the framing of this film. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's like a science fiction setting in which a bunch of scientists accidentally made a bunch of master splinters.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Can I interrupt really quick? There's early on, literally the first scene has Nicodemus writing stuff down, and he appears to be writing it down by magic.
Yes,
and
correct.
And at a certain point, I decided that was a metaphor, and the magic was his ability to write. Except, here's the thing. There's real magic.
There's real magic. At one point, he levitates a walking stick over to him. The motherfucker's just a wizard. He's a wizard rat. Here's the thing, is that at the mouse level, at the level of mice, the rats are essentially like a medieval fantasy race of elves.
Right, yes.
And the mice are peasants, or just normal like pig farmers. And so, which means that the rats have magic, but not all of them.
But this is the confusing thing, because then there's real magic, and also we're gonna get into it. But these mice have human level intelligence already.
But they don't have. But it's so frustrating. Okay, we got to start at the beginning.
I mean, where'd the owl come from? The owl's smarter than anybody else.
Magic, dude.
This is the problem with this movie. He's the great owl. Why I, for a bit there, thought he was Nicodemus in an owl shape because he was so weird, but he doesn't know who she is and tells her to go see Nicodemus. So I was like, I guess he's just not. He's just the fucking weirdest owl you will ever meet, covered in cobwebs, older than sin. Just
If I had watched this movie as a child, I would have been obsessed with this. It's so fucked up and weird, right? It's almost like intentionally obfuscated that the world that this movie describes is contradictory at a level that, like, as a child, all you would think about is making it make sense. As an adult, you're like, why did you write it this way?
There's just no reason for there to be magic in this world.
And yet,
I
think it's sick. I think it's kind of cool.
Anyway, so, my first note is about the production company United Artists, because they have the slowest moving logo I have ever seen.
Dude, my first note was the MGM lion.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy, you know, bring him out of retirement.
MGM lion, he shows up, that's an old friend.
Oh, but United Artists shows up and you're like, please, man, I got places to be.
It's not a lion.
That's true. It is, I will say, egregious. It almost feels like the intro to Deus Ex if you've ever played that game. It's just a rotating 3D, like, UA, right?
Yeah, I want to mention, this is like a minor quibble, and I suspect it's because the movie that I was watching was made for a movie theater, and I didn't get, like, the remixed version that they released on video. This movie has an issue with occasionally characters will whisper, and occasionally they'll play very loud music. I don't know if you had this problem. The version that I rented had this problem.
I immediately turned on. I watched this on Tubi.
Okay,
because it's free. It's currently free on Tubi, and I gotta say, it sucks. I had to immediately turn on closed captioning because, like, it is impossible to hear what people are saying for a large swaths of this film.
Yeah, it's wild. So we open on this Nicodemus is writing about how this mouse died.
This is such a hardcore opening.
It's really cool. I was, like, immediately bought in. Because all you see is this, like, old man's hand, and he's telling about how his friend died. And on the paper you can see something about a cat and a dragon, and you're like, okay, alright. Okay, and he's writing about, like, how he wishes he could do something for his widow, but he knows he can't. And I'm like, okay, interesting.
We then meet Mrs. Brisby, our heroine for the film. She is going to meet Aegis, who is, like, a mechanic mouse.
Lives in a thresher, maybe? Yeah, I mean, he seems to live in the thresher. I like the idea that he wants everybody to stay away so badly that he lives in a thresher that it was literally bloodstained. Like,
yeah. It's rough. Because her child is sick and she doesn't know what it is.
It's pneumonia. He gives her, like, a tea for him and says not to move him for 3 weeks.
And she's like, well, I have to. That can't be because the plowing day is in a week.
Day. Yeah.
Moving day. Sorry, moving day is in a week. And then we find out later that it's moving day because the farmer's about to plow the field. And now, this is already insane to me. Why live there at all?
I can think of one reason, but I don't know if it's a good reason. The main reason I can think of is that during the winter, there might be a lot of old seeds under there. And so they might want to move in and eat those during the winter and then move out. Now, here's the other thing. I'm going to fucking blow your mind wide open. I think if a plow came across a cinder block, the plow would lose. So what I don't know is if they're inside a cinder block, why this is such a concern. I know why the rabbits have to leave. I know why the shrew has to leave. I don't know why they have to leave.
Yeah. The cinder. I don't actually know. It's a drag behind, so the cinder. It would probably just take the cinder block with it.
I don't know. I probably wouldn't want to risk it, but I did think that a cinder block is a surprising amount of protection to give these animals.
This Jonathan guy.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, he really, really weighs over this movie. Because, he picked the house. She goes to take Timmy back his medicine. Timmy's the name of her youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And along the way is waylaid by our comic relief character.
Do we know his name?
Jacob?
Jacob sounds right.
There are too many J names in this movie.
Yeah. He's a big crow. He's,
It's Jeremy. It's Jeremy.
He's always wrapped up in a,
string.
In a string, because he's trying to build a nest. He's fine. The comic relief character could be much worse. I don't particularly care for him. Sort of interestingly, Mrs. Brigsby doesn't particularly care for him.
Yeah, she's kind of done with this shit immediately.
Yeah, she's like, I'm an adult. like you're a children's comic relief character. I need to I have shit to do.
Real world problems.
Yeah. We also meet Dragon, who they say is a cat, but I swear to God is a Wolverine.
It looks like a bobcat. Like a bobcat.
It might be bigger than a bobcat. Just this big, gray, one-eyed monstrosity that in every scene is just the nastiest, about to eat you creature. And we know that this thing killed Jonathan.
This thing killed her husband. So she's naturally scared to death of it. Her and the crow get a close call with it.
Meanwhile, we got
her kids.
Some little dumplings to talk about. I hate these children.
Oh, yeah. Teresa, Martin, and there's another one.
Yeah, there definitely is, for sure.
Shit. Cynthia. These kids are... It's really Martin that's the problem. Martin's, really obnoxious, and I can't stand his bullshit. You want to know who voiced Martin?
I remember seeing who voiced Martin.
Do you?
And making note, and now I don't remember.
Think back to the 80s. Who do you think would be playing a precocious and annoying child?
Will Wheaton.
It's Will fucking Wheaton.
Will Wheaton, that's it.
That's crazy.
It is kind of crazy.
The guy, I hate to say this, I think people are too mean to Will Wheaton. But also, it is crazy how often this happens to him.
How often he's cast as obnoxious child. It's a shame, really.
Yeah.
The problem is that Martin is like a dumbass.
Yes.
Like a straight up dumbass. Auntie Shrew, who he hates for some reason, despite the fact that, at first I was like, oh, she's the overbearing neighbor character. In the next scene, she will be ride or die on these kids. She's made, top tier. She's, the best friend of this family. She will not let them die. He hates her for some fucking reason. And, get over it, asshole. And he walks around swinging a stick. We're talking about how brave he is. His sick brother is in the next room. Shut the fuck up.
I've seen a lot of old Westerns. I'm kind of a loser. And I think the thing that this movie doesn't get is that, when one of those kids has pneumonia, every other kid is immediately oh, our mortality. Right?
They're very blasé about the fact that their brother is extremely sick.
Their brother could die. And they're
They have one scene where they contemplate this for half a second. In all other scenes, they're just extremely precocious. And it's fucking chill out on these kids. We actually don't need these kids to have this big a role in this movie. They don't actually do anything. They're essentially also comic relief.
On the one hand, I kind of understand the purpose of them, right? Which is to remind us of the stakes. And yet, I don't know,
the one dying kid reminds me of the stakes pretty okay.
Yeah, exactly. The one that's dying would have made more sense if she just had the one kid, huh?
I mean, not more sense exactly, but that's honestly how I would have written the movie, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then you could even put a lot of emotional weight on this being her last connection to her husband too.
Yeah. Oh, and also I think the fact that she has to leave, right, this kid in order to save this kid. It's a very devil's bargain, you know?
Yeah, but instead she is pretty okay. So I don't want to make it seem like she's just ready to abandon her kids, but she's like pretty up for adventure the entire movie, even though she's not an adventurer and is not looking to be an adventurer. To solve her problems, she is ready to do some crazy shit.
It's pretty cool how well they're able to get across that she is a person who would much rather be home.
Yes, but she will entirely destroy a tractor.
She will, or try, because moving day has come early.
Yes.
She goes to try and destroy the tractor. I think Mrs. Shrew, Miss Shrew ends up, Auntie Shrew ends up doing it.
I believe she
is awesome.
Gets in the killing blow. Yeah. Some oil or antifreeze or something. She cuts some important line. When Auntie Shrew showed up, I was like, holy shit, Auntie Shrew. I thought she was going to get the kids out of there and be like, I hope Mrs. Brisby's okay. But no, Mrs. Brisby is like, I have to try to save Timmy. And Auntie Shrew's like, well, okay. Auntie Shrew's like low-key the coolest character only for this scene. Because like, she's even less of a hero than Mrs. Brisby.
So they stop the tractor, but they know that they've only bought themselves like a couple of days at most.
Yeah, they expect him to be up and running like tomorrow. This is bad. Yeah.
Auntie Shrew tells Miss Brisby to go speak to the Great Owl.
Yeah, the Great Owl's the only one who might have an idea on what to do here.
Mrs. Brisby is like, owls eat mice. This is a bad idea.
Also true.
But she goes anyway, because she'll do anything to save her child. It's commendable, really.
This scene is so cool.
I feel like, again, there are moments in which this movie almost feels like the best parts of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
This is one of those moments.
She walks into, I think it's just a tree, just like a house. It must be completely dead inside. Like, she walks into this hollow tree. She's like, she hears the owl. He's like, enter or leave. Like, get on with it. And
come inside or stay outside, and remember to turn off all the lights.
She like looks down this like big cavernous cliff, and she sees a bunch of mouse bones and is scared when a moth comes and like flies in her face. And then there's this big old spider creeping up on her, and just a time in filmmaking when you would put a fucked up old owl and have him killing a fucked up spider in this children's movie.
It kills the spider and then it turns its head like 180 degrees.
Yes, perfect.
It's so good. The owl, by the way, I believe voiced by John Carradine, who is like one of those guys who's been in like a million billion things. And his voice with the design.
The design of this.
Just,
Sorry, I want you to be able to finish your thought.
John Carradine is like pretty well known for like a couple of episodes of Twilight Zone, and he's got the voice for it.
Yeah, the design of this owl is crazy. He looks blind. I don't think he's supposed to be, but his eyes are like glowing, like he's not actually seeing out of them. He is, and this is so important, full ass covered in spider webs. Like he's an undead being that just crawled out of the grave.
Big necromancer vibes off of this guy.
I don't know why. I immediately want to know what the owl's deal is. The owl talks to Mrs. Brisby.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I need to save my kid. And he's like, you just gotta move him. That's it. That's all you can do. You gotta
risk it.
But he learns her name. And he's like, Mrs. Jonathan Brisby? Yes. Why does the Great Owl know Jonathan's name? She has no idea. He's like, well, okay. In that case, you could go see the rats in the rose bush by the farmhouse.
The rats of NIMH.
The rats of NIMH. The wildest thing is after this scene, which is so intense and so cool, she waits till the next day to go see the rats. Which is crazy. Yeah. The people are walking around, the cat's outside, she's on a time limit already.
Well,
I don't actually.
One thing at a time.
This has gotta get done.
She goes to the rose bush and enters into the abode, the lair of the rats of Nim. Gets absolutely attacked by a fucked up, freaky rat that we find out later is called Brutus.
Yeah, I don't even know if we ever see Brutus outside of this scene.
He shows up one more time.
Okay.
At the end.
He has like a sort of cow prod spear. And I can only imagine he's been really itching to test this against an intruder because he doesn't ask her any questions. He just keeps stabbing at her, sending shockwaves everywhere.
It's so cool. The effect, this movie makes use of a practical effect that cannot be done in animation anymore. It is an artifact of physical animation, which is they do the thing where they cut out the transparency that the cell is drawn on and put a light behind it to get that glowing effect. And they are doing it all over the fucking place in this movie. For the owl's eyes, Nicodemus's eyes also do this, which is, I think, why you thought they were the same character.
Oh, it was a big reason. The other reason was that the owl's talons looked like Nicodemus's hands.
And they also have, like, that mustache thing going on as well.
Yeah.
The sparks on, like, every scene that anything is sparking or, like, igniting, they do this, like, really cool behind the cell lighting effect. And it looks so good. And it's one of my, like, favorite techniques. So I'm really glad that it's just, like, they really overdid it.
There's this really cool thing they keep doing, which is, again, I think supposed to be a metaphor. The rat's lair glows in, like, rainbow colors, and it's because they have electricity that's supposed to represent electricity. I've never seen electricity represented as more than one color before, but it's such a cool idea. Again, I think because it's magical, but the problem is
it's also Christmas lights.
Oh, that's true. They do have Christmas lights.
So it's like, again, it's this combination of things where, like, at the human level, it's just technology, but at the mouse level, it's magic. And I love that, but also it is sometimes at the human level, magic. And we'll get there. She gets saved by Aegis.
Yeah, who has a broken leg now? And he's like, what are you doing here? Aegis, we didn't really describe Aegis. He's the grumpiest old man.
This guy is such an asshole. For what I understand, no reason.
He's just like this. And you know what? Some people he's just not very personable. He's extremely intelligent. He wants people to keep away from him.
Yeah, he's got real, like, old man from Up vibes.
He's a good guy. He has that broken leg, it turns out, from fucking Dragon, because he tried to do what Jonathan died doing. It turns out the rats are drugging the cat, which it will get to. Attempting to drug the cat. I think that they need to drug the cat so they can move. That was my understanding.
Yeah. Because the cat prowls at night.
Right, but they can't move until they've drugged him, and only a mouse can drug them because they're the ones that are small enough to get into the house.
And also the rats are too big. Mm-hmm. This is a constant with these rats. They're just too big to do stuff. So we enter into this, like, medieval fantasy wonderland, and we meet.
It feels a lot like Camelot.
Yeah, it does. And all of the rats here are dressed in, like, medieval garb and have swords and stuff.
I really, really liked this idea that, like, Mrs. Brisby lived on, like, the outskirts. And here, what she didn't even know is that the rats live in a city.
They live in a city. At this point, she meets Jonathan's old friend, Justin. Hold on, is that right?
I think it's Justin. Yeah.
MILF Hunter Justin.
So these two have incredible chemistry.
The most intense on-screen chemistry, nothing is done with.
They are different species and they never kiss. They're just like, not even like in the end when everything's like, oh, all the fallout's done and everything's better. He doesn't even come visit.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy,
He
right?
doesn't even get like at the end of Mulan when Shang shows up, and it's kind of like, I came to see you. Like, not even that.
It's wild. I don't understand how they got away with this.
I'm just
Like-
confused as to why they felt the need to give her was clearly a love interest if they weren't going to
Yeah.
give her a love interest.
Yeah, right.
Also, her husband maybe just died.
her husband died. You get the sense that he died a bit ago.
Unclear how long though. Like, was it a few weeks?
It could have been a
couple
week.
months.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking?
Who knows?
Is it just like that mice have to move on that quickly because that's how life is? I mean, we find out she didn't even know that he got killed by dragon. She just knew that he didn't show up again and was immediately like, I guess I'm the widow Brisby now.
Yeah, I guess my husband's dead.
Which is
and this is
brutal.
Is bananas, right? This is bananas, right? Because it means that he was leaving every day to be like, sorry, hon, I got to go to my 9 to 5. And she's like, I don't know what that is. I don't know why you keep having to leave me and our children.
I mean, presumably he brought home food or something. That's a good point, though. It is weird. She has children that are all different ages, so they've been together for long enough that it's weird that he had a second life, you know?
Yeah. Again, cool. I wish the movie did more with that emotion.
Yes, she is... It feels like more intrigued and curious to learn about what Jonathan did than she is, like, betrayed or sad or even, like, excited. Like, the fact that she doesn't have another emotion, she's just like, oh, he did this. This is what he was doing. Huh.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
There's not even a bit where she's like, oh, he was like a hero. There's not a bit where she's like, he should have thought of his family. Like, she doesn't have a complicated emotional reaction to it.
Yeah, if anything, it's kind of the only thing the film is missing is if she had any other reaction to this information, it would have been a complexity.
Particularly because you're right, Jonathan weighs on this film. Like, this film is essentially about Jonathan's death.
And getting over it. As it were.
In fact, I think that this film might have been slightly better if instead of the opening that we got, which is a great opening, we actually got to see Jonathan being a cool hero and then just like, boom, he dies.
Not making it at the end.
Yeah.
That might have been a bit much.
It might have been a bit much.
Do you remember when that mouse got eaten?
Would it have been a bit much for Don Bluth?
You make a genuinely solid point.
Do you remember the last time he used that lighting effect? Because I think it was when they were shooting guns at dogs.
Yeah, or when the dog gets hit by a car to death.
Oh my god, that does happen in that movie.
You make a good point. You're right. Don Bluth has no excuse. We find out that the rats have a little bit of like an internal discord. That is to say, they are split amongst themselves about what should be done in the future, not that they are chatting with each other through an incredibly useful client software.
Yeah. If you're listening to us right now, it's so good. Please don't cut the call.
Yeah. So half of the rats are saying that they need to move, that them and Nicodemus, they're rallying behind Nicodemus, basically that they need to stop being reliant on human things and go live independently and move to the thorn patch.
I'm gonna tell you my issue with this. Nicodemus, he believes, and this is kind of interesting, that they are smart enough now to have morals. And he believes morally they should not be stealing from other people. I think that's kind of silly. You're rats, they're humans. They experimented on you. They have more food than you do. You can take a little bit of it, that's fine. And I can understand why some of the rats think that. Now, I think there is an even more reasonable thing that Nicodemus could say, which is that, like, guys, we're not going to sit down here and not be ever discovered. We need to be more than 3 feet away from the humans. Because that's where they are now, 3 feet away from the humans.
Yeah, and
actually, maybe 6 if you count also being 3 feet underground.
the argument that Jenner, again, way too many J names in this.
There are a lot of J names.
Jenner, who is the evil rat.
This guy thinks he's Machiavellian, but he's actually an extremely simple person.
He is, he's a serial killer.
Yeah, he is.
Who thinks that he's like a political genius.
Mm-hmm. There's a bit at the very end where I'm like, it's kind of great how smart he thinks he is, but his only plan is ever to swing a sword at somebody.
Dude, oh my god. All right. So, Jenner's whole thing is, no, we should stay here because we've already made a home here, and also fuck humans. We should go to war with humans.
Now, okay.
You might think there's a bit of a leap there. But that's what he says.
That's the words that he says. And other people are like, oh, we're going to be outnumbered. Now, here's the thing. Like, yeah, guys, you're going to be outnumbered. You would be outnumbered by one human. Like, outnumbered is not the problem.
I don't know about that. Could you imagine, like, a bunch of rats?
They have 20.
They have 20. Just 20 rats. Dude, I think 20 rats could take... 20 rats that have human intelligence and swords... I think they could take out one human at least.
Yeah, right.
Guerrilla tactics.
But I mean, could they take out two and a cat? Like,
yeah, it's true. They haven't been able to take out this cat the whole time.
This cat is so evil. This cat is ready to eat all of these rats
and birds. This cat would eat the bird.
This cat would eat everything.
That's why the farmer hasn't fixed the thresher yet.
At some point, one of the rats does call the mice lower creatures, and I was like, not okay.
I think specifically, it's not necessarily mice, but just in general.
All of them. Everything that's not a rat. Now, you could argue everything that's not a genetically engineered rat.
That's, I think, where they're going with it.
There's maybe an argument there, still not okay. They have language, right? They wear clothes. These are already human level intelligence mice. This is my main problem with the big twist of the movie. Yeah,
is that Auntie Shrew wears a scarf.
Mm-hmm. And an apron?
I guess what it is that they've grown smart enough to put on pants. So like Goofy is a higher order being than Donald Duck.
Wow. That is,
according to the logic of this movie,
correct. It seems like what the intelligence serum did is essentially teach the rat something without them having to be taught it. Because Mrs. Brigsby can read, because her husband taught her how to read, but he never had to learn how to read.
She mentions that she finds it difficult, but the kids took to it better.
Yes, and there's an interesting idea there. If it wasn't for the fact that when adults learn to read, they do find it more difficult than when you learn to read as a kid.
Yeah, I know. It's there's so much going on here.
I'm like, my basic understanding of how brains work actually kind of clashes with how they are saying that this magic works. So I don't know what's happening next. I guess she finally goes to see Nicodemus. He tells her about Nim, gives her the gem, and this was when I made the note that was like, so is this a sci-fi movie or a fantasy movie? And the answer might surprise you. It's both. It's both.
It's both.
It's both.
It's both.
It doesn't need to be both though, but it is both.
It's a science and sorcery movie.
The rats have decided to help her because Jenner has this great idea that while they're moving the big cinder block, he can just drop it on Nicodemus and it'll be an accident. And then Nicodemus will be dead and he'll get to take over. Like I said, it's not like the best plan ever, but spoiler, it gonna work. So
it's crazy how effective murder is. When that is like the beginning and end of your plan.
Yeah, I got a plan. If we kill a guy, he'll be dead.
I hate to say this to Jenner, but like, we saw the rats in Parliament. They're not exactly just going to be like, damn, I guess we're all just going to agree with Jenner now.
Particularly because Nicodemus was not even at that meeting. Nicodemus is apparently enough of a force. His ideas are enough of a force that other rats will argue it for him. So they would still argue.
That's the thing, is it's such a like poorly conceived political maneuver.
I love it.
The rats agree, but then Mrs. Brisby, of her own volition,
right,
volunteers to help the rats in return.
Because she's gonna drug that cat.
Mm-hmm.
And she does! End of scene! I'm kidding.
At this point, also, she gets the magical rock that her husband left for her.
Yeah, that's when I made that note about the fantasy movie thing. Yeah, so this is the confusing thing. Alright, let's just say it. Why'd he give Nicodemus the rock? To give to her, maybe?
Yes. Where did he get this rock? Because it seems like he just stole it from the house.
That would be wild. It's mouse-sized. It's an amulet.
Did he make it? It has an engraving on the back.
Is it like from a charm bracelet?
Is it a doll's? Like, is it from one of those dolls in The Great Mouse Detective that just happens to be rat-sized or mouse-sized?
I don't know. I don't know where this thing came from. I don't know why it's magic. I don't know why he gave it to Nicodemus if he wanted his wife to have it. None of it makes any sense.
Well, he knew he was gonna die.
Then don't drug the cat today.
He felt it in his bones.
Miss Brisby surprises herself by volunteering. To drug the cat. So she and Justin go to the mouse hole. She sneaks out, drugs the cat, but she gets caught by the little boy.
By the farmers. Oh, what are they called? The Fitzgibbons?
Sure. Up until this minute, I don't think we've seen this child. Which is fine, I only realized just now that, like, I totally forgot this kid exists, except for the fact that somebody's got to put a cup over her and demand that they keep the mouse instead of putting it outside.
Yeah, because she's like, throw it outside, and the kid's like, no, we can put her in the bird cage. Fucked up, kid.
It is a little fucked up. She gets put in the bird cage. She's wearing, I guess she's not wearing clothes, actually, because she took them off to do this op. So she gets put in the bird cage. There is, I think, like a truly interesting scene where I'm watching her like, how's she gonna get out of this? So I read Watership Down a little while back. And
oh, wow.
One of the interesting things that they do in Watership Down is they make it clear that these rabbits do not have, they can't conceive of boats. They like,
yeah. It is like a Call of the Wild-esque story wherein the limitation of the intelligence of these creatures is made incredibly apparent.
It's part of it, right? It's like,
yeah.
They have to figure out how to like outthink their enemies by thinking of new ideas for the first time ever. And one of them's like, guys, this would float so we could get on it. And everybody else is like, what are you talking about?
What do you mean? That's insane.
What? What? And then what? And he's like, no. If we bite through this rope, it'll float away and we'll float to safety. And they're like, what? And it felt a lot like that. Her in this birdcage, she's like trying to figure out how to get out of this birdcage. Birdcages aren't that complicated. But, like, how does a mouse get out of a bird cage? She has to figure out how it works and then be able to leave. And they've wired it shut, so the easiest way to get out is impossible now.
She tries to lift the gate, can't do it. She tries to untie the wire, and it, like, springs back and, like, cuts her arm open.
We see blood, which is always interesting in a Don Bluth film because they don't do it in Disney films.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. And I love this. You can see her desperate mind in this moment. She goes to dunk her bleeding forearm in the water, and that's when she realizes, oh, I could get out through here.
Mm-hmm. She's like scrabbling, and she like can't quite get on the other side, and then she like shoves the water bowl just a little bit more forward. It's great. You're right. They sell the desperation of the scene, and I really like seeing her think through this problem because it's never an obstacle she's had to face before.
And I love the cut because it cuts to the water pot falling to the floor, and it's so deflationary. It's just like dunk splat. It's like, oh yeah,
it's a little water bowl for a bird.
So she escapes. But why does she escape? Why does she need to escape? She overhears that night the farmer gets a phone call from NIMH saying that they're going to show up and exterminate his rats for free.
Yeah, because they've been calling him, asking him about these rats, and so he and his wife think that the rats must have some disease or something, but we know it's because they know these rats were smart enough to escape, and they don't want super intelligent rats running around.
Now, and I gotta say this, I have never in my life met a farmer who would get a call from a government organization.
It's like the middle of the night, too.
Can we give this service to you for free and be excited about it? Absolutely not. This farmer would be like, if you show up on my property, I will blow away your car and anyone in it.
Yeah, he's just super
but he's excited
about them, like, getting rid of all the rats. Now, to be fair, it does seem like Nicodemus had a point. They are being a real nuisance to this farmer.
It's true.
Like, maybe he'd been complaining about it in town, and that's why they even know to look here.
Yeah, because he mentions that, like, they've been trying to trap them, and it doesn't work.
Traps just don't work.
She knows that NIMH's going to show up in the morning. She escapes, and while she's doing this, the rats have put together an incredibly complex pulley system.
Can I be honest? I would have dragged the damn thing. What are we doing, guys?
They're smart. They're not, but that doesn't mean that they can't be stupid.
Yeah, you can outthink yourself for sure.
Some of the smartest people I know are also some of the dumbest.
If they drag this instead of lifting it, Nicodemus would still be alive today.
Or maybe they would have just dragged it over him. Jenner would have been like, I'll cut this rope and it'll like whiplash around and drag over him.
Horrible.
So he's like, all right, while they're lifting it over Nicodemus, we'll cut the line and it'll fall on him. Great.
I gotta mention this guy. I don't have his name written down. He's not that important.
I have no idea who the fuck this guy is.
He's got like a sidekick character who's like not down for murder.
I think it's Sullivan.
Who cares?
It's Sullivan.
It's probably Sullivan.
His name is Sullivan.
And it's like, he didn't even need to enlist this guy's help. He just, like, wanted to, I guess. Because this guy refuses to help him, and then he cuts all the ropes anyway. So, fine.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. I hate to do this. The guy who voices Sullivan, the sidekick, is named Aldo Ray, born Aldo de Ray.
Okay. He
was given an award by the Adult Film Association for his appearance in an erotica film.
What award?
Best Actor.
Interesting. I've never considered this before, but I am now fascinated by what the best actor in adult erotica film looks like.
Dude, here, hold on, I'm dropping this in the Discord.
Andy's just sending me porn. No, I mean, like, what was his performance like?
Well, I can't tell you that. I'm going to be real with you. I don't want to look up this film because it's called Sweet Savage, and I don't want to know.
Oh, yeah, this looks like it might be pretty racist. Oh, here's a Native American woman on a horse. Yeah. Pornography Western film.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Sorry, I was going to say that it's fascinating to think that, like, porn parodies have existed for so long that, like, there was a time when people would just crank out porn parody westerns because it's like, yeah, that's what we do. What was interesting is, and I'm sure that this is not a cool movie to watch, genuinely. Like, I'm sure it's troubling, but they did have a release of it without any sex scenes that they played in certain theaters.
That's bananas.
It's so funny, especially because apparently it was confiscated by the authorities because they were like, you can't show erotica in this theater, even though they'd cut the erotic scenes out.
I feel like whoever called that in was kind of overplaying their hand, because if they took the movie and then they were like, hey, wait a minute, there's no porn in this. Jerry, you told us there was porn in this. Well, in the version I saw, in the version you saw. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to derail us.
I'm the most derailed.
So much.
I need to not be looking at this Wikipedia article. Okay.
No pun intended. Where even were we in this movie?
The bad guy was killing Nicodemus. I think this is the point where he also takes a swipe at his sidekick, just gashes him. This is when I realized this guy's not smart.
No. That happens later. Him and his sidekick are going to cut the ropes, and the sidekick's like, oh, I can't do it. And he throws the sword away. But Jenner doesn't even realize that he's been betrayed, because he's just cutting rope. He's like cutting every rope. The cinder block falls. It does miss Nicodemus, but he ends up being crushed under all of the equipment that they set up.
Rigging, yeah.
And he's fucking dead. We see his little hand. He's dead.
And the cinder block has landed in the mud, which is not going to be good in a second. Oh, then Mrs. Brigsby shows up and is like, guys, they're coming. Nim's coming. You gotta leave now. This is it. Also, what did you do to my house?
And Jenner is like, shut the fuck up. You're a stupid woman.
And then starts swinging at her with a sword. Like, this is not how you win an argument, idiot.
And that's when his assistant shows up and is like, what are you doing? And he slits this guy's throat.
Yeah. He leaves him bleeding out on the ground.
On screen, in a children's movie, slits this guy's throat with the sword. It's awesome.
This is a cool scene. I have two issues with it.
Yeah.
First is just that this whole villain thing is very rushed. We don't know Jenner from fucking Adam, but here he is just killing everybody on screen. And the second is that Mrs. Brigsby doesn't get anything to do. I think this is I think this is probably the biggest reason why there's actual magic in this movie, because they realized Mrs. Brigsby didn't do anything during the climax. Yeah. All she had to do was take off her necklace and wrap it around this asshole's throat.
Oh my god, that would have been sick. But instead, Justin shows up.
Captain of the guard. I don't remember if we said that.
We didn't say that. He is the captain of the guard. He's the MILF hunter, in case you forgot. He shows up. He's kind of sort of trying to talk Jenner down while holding him off with a stick. But then at some point he yells at somebody to hand him a sword, and he just starts fighting this guy to the death. Yeah,
I think it's because he realized that he had killed Nicodemus, and he was like, well, I'm going for it now.
This is crazy. He realizes this out of nowhere for no reason.
Just cause Jenner's crazy and stupid.
He's seeing this guy going around trying to murder people, and he's just like, it was you.
Yeah.
You murdered Nicodemus. And then Jenner's like, you're goddamn right I did. Fuck that old man.
It's weird that he had as a revelation instead of just like, why are you doing... Did you? And then, but it's instead he's just like, I see it all now. There wasn't a weave to unweave, man.
Yeah. But at the same time, the fact that Jenner is just like, yes, I did it. I killed him.
Is a fun villain for being such a dumbass. Somebody's like, you killed him. And he's like, yeah, I did.
He goes to this is a classic mistake. Goes to overhead. I don't know if you've ever been in a sword fight. This is a classic mistake. Goes to overhead swing, finish off the captain of the guard, and the captain of the guard just thrusts him right in the heart.
Yeah.
Gets his ass.
You shouldn't do anything that leaves you open for that amount of time.
The captain's doing his victory lap, right?
Yeah,
he's like,
don't turn he makes classic mistake too. Turns his back on a wounded but not yet dead enemy.
Yeah, starts doing his whole we've got to follow Nicodemus's example. It's time for us to move. If we start moving now, we can be gone before the morning. Because the cat is drugged.
Yes.
Jenner gets up to do like a surprise blow, but in what has to be the coolest moment I have ever seen in a movie.
Fallen adult film star throws his dagger.
A pornographic film star through the body of a rat, throws a dagger into Jenner's spine, killing him instantly.
I mean, it's good.
And then he also dies from his wounds.
You would honestly not have expected from the rest of this movie how high the body count is. It's not that it's crazy high, it's that there's been, like, very little actual violence up until this scene.
Also, it's all on screen.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's, like, obviously you get the graceful cut, right? The ooh, when Nicodemus dies, when all the rats go, ooh!
Yeah, well, and it's, like, covered in dust. Like, it would make sense you did not see that. But, like, you see it happen. You see the aftermath, like, and the same thing with, like, Jenner and his assistant. Like, they're just dead. We start breathing a sigh of relief. Unfortunately, it's like been raining this whole time. And
it's been raining this whole time.
Muddy as hell here. And
this is a real Watership Down moment because this cinder block starts sinking with the kids still inside.
This is...
And Auntie Shrew.
Very upsetting and dark. They seem to forget at this point that Auntie Shrew is inside. I don't think I see her during this scene.
She was unconscious. She gets knocked unconscious while the cinder block gets moved.
And
so
I guess survives.
Yeah.
Timmy is also just like in the next room, hopefully floating, because this room is filling with mud. And it is awful. I was like, this is too much. This is the scene where I was like, if a kid saw this, they might legitimately be upset by like how hard this scene goes, where all these kids are trying very hard not to die. And like all the rats are trying to
This is where we see Brutus again, because they're handing all the lines to Brutus, and he's just like not even trying to pull the brick out, they're just trying to stop it from sinking. But there's nothing that can be done. The brick sinks below the mud.
And Justin like grabs Mrs. Brigsby and like drags her away from being sucked under with it. I was like, how can you do that?
On the one hand, like, because he's, at this point, he's like, again, this is MILF Hunter mentality. He's like, don't worry, we can make more.
Boo.
This is what May said while this scene was happening. And I was like, I don't think this is the tone. But yeah, she's like wailing, right? She is like, as far as she's concerned, he's not saving her, he's condemning her children to die. But then, I don't know how to say this, she lifts the block out using the magical power of the amulet.
So the amulet starts talking to her in Nicodemus's voice about how she has a pure heart. And
courage.
And it's like, I don't know why you care, amulet, but it does, and it lifts the stone out and puts it on the lay side of the like far stone, so the farmer isn't going to drive over it. And the kids are safe and everything's okay. And we get like an idyllic little next scene where they're all hanging out. And Timmy's feeling better, but he's still not allowed to get up yet because it's maybe only been 2 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, he's still a little sick.
But he's like, I want to like go play. And she's like, no, stay in bed. Which I don't think is how you actually deal with pneumonia. I wonder if in the 80s we did think that's how you dealt with pneumonia. But you actually should be up and moving.
Yeah, you need to get that phlegm out, dude.
You can't have all that liquid there in your chest.
In your lungs.
And then our crow friend meets another crow friend, and they have sweet, sweet sex, presumably.
Yeah, they have a meet cute in the reeds. She mentions that she gave the amulet to Justin.
Wild. I mean, it should work for Justin, because you just have to be brave and true.
And he is all those things. I don't understand why they don't get together.
It's wild. Maybe the amulet's like a promise ring. I mean, he has to lead the rats now. She doesn't want to do that.
That's true. That's true. He is the leader of the rats now. And that's the end of the movie, right?
Yeah, and it was alright. The magic stuff is very distracting to me, but, like, there is so much just, like, cool shit in this movie.
It's distracting, but it is also, like, some of the sickest animation you'll ever see.
I would love to do, like, a ranking of our Don Bluth movies, because so many of them are actually really low.
Let's hold on. Let's do this. We're going to do a tier list. All right, here we go. The Secret of NIMH. I think that's an A for me.
Yeah, I think that might be an A tier. I think I would also put Anastasia up there, honestly.
Yeah, Anastasia is also really good. Just honestly, Anastasia wins it for me just for the one the ghost ball scene alone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, okay. An American Tail.
Fucking D, maybe? Like, low.
Dude, I want to agree with you, but here's the thing is we have, like, All Dogs Go to Heaven, which is F tier, right?
Yeah, F, maybe D, if we're feeling nice about it. But, like, yeah, that one's low.
It's such a wild movie. The Land Before Time, which I think is also D tier.
I would probably put it as D tier, but we'd have to, honestly, I haven't watched it in so long.
Here's the thing, it's kind of an ugly fucking movie.
It's really gross looking, which is so weird for a Don Bluth movie. Really?
I think it's because they wanted it to look like a specific style of, like, dinosaur illustration.
Like what we thought dinosaurs looked like in the early 50s. Like,
yeah. And they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It really brings the whole tone and tenor of the movie down. I guess I'd put it in C.
You can drop it in C.
Good.
I
don't feel good putting it above American Tail, though.
You can swap them if you like. I watched American Tail as an adult and was super disappointed with, like, all the themes and how it handled it. I didn't think it was very good.
Yeah, that's fair, but The Land Before Time is, like, kind of a themeless film.
Yeah. Hey, I've got one that's not on this Fandango list that I found, because this is a Don Bluth film as much as he might want you to forget. What about Bartok the Magnificent?
Bartok the Magnificent has to be an F tier, right?
I don't know. Does it get to be a D tier for having a super, super good intro that it then doesn't deliver on?
That's fair. Fine. You're right. All Dogs Go to Heaven gets to be in a tier all of its own. Oh man. Okay. There are a lot of these that I haven't seen. I haven't seen Rockadoodle.
This is the thing. We're gonna have to add to this.
I have seen Thumbelina, and Thumbelina sucks.
It's been a long, long, long time since I've seen Thumbelina. I think I saw it when I was like 4.
I watched it as, like, a teen, and because, you know, I was big into animation at the time, and I was sorely. It's a weird fucking flick.
I've never even heard of The Pebble and the Penguin. It has one of the lowest scores I've ever seen on Rotten Tomatoes.
A Troll in Central Park is also a movie that I've never heard of.
I've definitely heard of A Troll in Central Park, but it might be just because I've looked up Don Bluth films before.
This has to be the most infamous Don Bluth film. Titan AE.
It's got a higher rating than Troll in Central Park. You probably have to work to not.
I think this is one of the ugliest movies I've ever seen in my life.
It's the year 2000. We're trying a new
it's
animation
the year
style.
2000.
It's bad.
It's just one of those things where it's like the character designs, the spaceship designs, it's all so weird.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people compare Titan AE to Atlantis because they're kind of going for similar tones, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Atlantis has the benefit of being, like, well animated.
Atlantis looks good. I'll say that for Atlantis.
Yeah.
The point is, there are a lot of Don Bluth films, and this is one of the better ones. Would we put this at A? This is the best one we've seen.
Yeah, this is the best one we've seen, and this is one of what I would say are the 2 only good movies that Don Bluth has ever made.
I think Don Bluth is an amazing animator. I think he's good at directing animation. I wonder if one of the reasons this is a good movie is because it's based on a book, and a lot of the stuff actually isn't.
I think it is. I think it's doing a lot. That the the thing that Don Bluth cannot do is write a story.
I mean, what's the other one we put in A tier is Anastasia. That's a movie that he stole. It's essentially a re-release of a different Anastasia movie.
Yeah.
Just animated.
Effectively.
Which was, honestly, if he did that more, I think there would have been a lot of really gorgeous films released that people look back on fondly. Instead of a film where they're like, why is this child drawn like this? And what's this dog's deal?
Yeah, why is this movie making such a big deal about forgiving your useless burnout dads? And why is Cinderella here?
But on the other hand, does have straight up, Don Bluth is very good at drawing demons.
Dude, if there's one thing Don Bluth can do, it's draw demons, draw fucked up old wizards, and make a cat seem like the most terrifying creature on the planet.
This cat's so fucked up. Jamie was like, does Don Bluth hate cats? I said, I don't think so specifically, but...
He either hates cats or loves cats. There's no in between for him, right? Like, I do need to stress that in the book, there is no magic.
Secret in NIMH? That makes sense.
Yeah. In the book, Mrs. Brisby and the Rats of NIMH.
It really felt like a Don Bluth thing.
A Don Bluth thing, yeah. In the book, Mrs. Brisby and the Rats of NIMH, because May has read the book and then watched the movie. In the book isn't about Mrs. Brisby at all.
May has she's shown a lot of dedication to a podcast that she's not on.
Yeah. It really gave me the education. Also, but she did this when she was a child.
Okay. I was just going to say,
she didn't do this.
Neither of us read this book.
Yesterday. No. She didn't do this yesterday. This was in middle school. In the book, it's not about Mrs. Brisby at all. Mrs. Brisby's whole problem with her child is a framing narrative.
Like she's telling the story to her child?
No, she goes to Nicodemus, right, to get help. And that is the framing narrative for the body of the book, which is entirely about how Jonathan and the Rats of NIMH escaped.
Huh.
And then at the end of the book, you get this kind of closing action piece where she takes Jonathan's place to help the rats. Jenner isn't really in it at all. She takes Jonathan's place to help the Rats of NIMH so that they can then help her move her house. And at the end of that book, God, this is insane. The Rats of NIMH leave 9 rats behind in the thorn bush. Because if it's empty, NIMH will know that they were there.
They leave 9 intelligent rats behind?
To pretend to be normal rats. Because if it was empty, NIMH would be suspicious. And so NIMH gets there, they're like, oh, I guess they're just normal rats here. Well, we promised to exterminate them. And then they gas the fucking thorn bush, and only 7 of those rats make it out alive.
That's a bad plan.
Yeah, well, but the alternative, right? What's the alternative? Is we sacrifice innocent, dumb rats?
Yeah, it is.
All right. This sounds like an insane book. See, there's 3 of these books. It sounds like a massively wild series. It gives me Warrior Cat vibes almost. It does
kind of sound like Warrior. It's just, yeah. Oh, wild.
And one last thing. I don't know if you've seen the poster for this movie, the theatrical release poster.
That owl and that rat look exactly the same.
Right? I think Don Bluth was being a little trickster.
This poster is great, though. Remember when they used to have posters like this? I don't know why we're doing Anti-Shrew quite so dirty, I'll tell you what.
This makes it look like Anti-Shrew and Aegis are evil.
Yeah.
It makes it look like everyone's evil,
it makes
actually.
It look like everyone's evil except for Mrs. Brigsby and our crow character, whose name I straight up forgot again.
Jacob?
It doesn't matter. No, Jacob's the other guy.
Jonathan. No, Jonathan's her husband.
There are too many J names. I think he might be Jeremy.
She does flirt with the crow, right?
A little bit.
Like specifically to make him fuck off.
Yeah.
But it's an odd scene for sure. right before your eyes and beyond your wildest dreams.
This looks a little bit like the cover of a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
It kind of reminds me of Sword in the Stone.
Now that I say it out loud, this would be a great setting for a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Oh, yeah, it sure would.
Because it kind of seems like a lot of shit could have happened. Depending on, like, what choices Mrs. Brigsby made.
I gotta tell you, I would be denying the call. If I was Mrs. Brisby, I'd be like, no. My husband did what? Absolutely not.
But then the gem won't activate. So if you deny the call, you have to stop Jenner.
You have to, yeah, and you know how you do it? You do it the way you said. You fucking wrap that metal cord around his neck and pull. I feel like that happens in a movie we watched recently. Didn't that happen in Great Mouse Detective?
Choking somebody out with their neck piece?
With a rope or something?
It sounds, it does, the image really comes to me. Maybe when they were on that balloon.
Yeah, or it could have happened in All Dogs Go to Heaven, I guess. There's a lot of choking in that.
Anyway.
Great flick. Highly recommend.
One of two Don Bluth films that I would actually recommend you watch. We're going to watch a sequel that we're not going to like. I can guarantee that at this point.
I am so not excited for this sequel.
Thank you for listening to Direct to Video VHS.
VHS.
I have been your host, Tony Robusto.
I have been your host, Andy Reyes.
You can find me on Blue Sky at inspiredbytrueevents.org or at my website of the same name.
You can find me on Blue Sky at Royalty-Valens, where I have been posting a lot about the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, because that's what I've been reading. You can also find me on YouTube at Ethical Games Journalism. Unfortunately, my capture card broke in the move.
Oh, no.
So I have been trying to figure out what I'm going to do about that. I did also, in the move, get my PlayStation back.
Okay. I didn't realize that your PlayStation had been taken away.
My brother was holding on to it.
No, I know about brothers stealing PlayStations. Don't even sweat. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I also was not made aware of the fact that he was holding on to it. But he did give it back when we moved, because he's moving and he's like, I don't want to take all this shit. And I was like, that's fair, but also...
But why do you have it?
So I got my PlayStation 2 back. I don't know if it works, but at some point, I know we've been talking about this for a while, we need to do like a some kind of recording of these old Disney PlayStation games.
Yeah, I looked it up because I have a lot of fond memories for Emperor's New Groove, and I looked it up, and it turns out that's considered to be the good one.
Oh yeah, no. Here's the thing: is I have no fond memories of any Disney game I've ever played. I've never played Kingdom Hearts, and so I was also thinking if we're brave enough, we might have a run through that.
Thank you to Scott Buckley for our music, Homeward, and make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher or on YouTube, Direct to Video Podcast.
Heck yeah! Give us that 5-star pull. Talking about Secret of NIMH in 2025.
Really expose us to all of the internet so we can have people be like really mad at us about our opinions about Secret of NIMH.
They should be grateful that we were positive. There is a world in which, had this movie been even a little less on any axes, I think we would have both been really tired of it. Thankfully, it's beautiful.
It's genuinely a pretty solid movie though. And then next time, we're going to watch a movie that I cannot fathom being good. But I have said this before, so...
Yeah, we're going to be watching The Secret of NIMH 2, Timmy to the Rescue.
It's a rough subtitle, isn't it?
Which I cannot stress, is free on Tubi.
I was going to get it on Hoopla, support your local libraries. An hour and 8 minutes though. That's nice. That's gonna be good.
I'm looking at this freeze frame and I'm already horrified.
Cool. I am the ghost of John Smith.
And I'm Alan Adair.
Yes!
Telling you our story of mice, magic, and man.
It's gonna be really embarrassing when in like 3 years this is an Alan Adale podcast.
Yeah.
a month or two ago, I replayed the best Kingdom Hearts title, and I was like, this is good and only slightly ruined by the fact that it's in Kingdom Hearts.
Well, what is that? Kingdom Hearts?
It's Birth by Sleep.
365 over 2? Oh, Birth by Sleep.
It's Birth by Sleep. I realize other people have different opinions, but the reason it's the best one is because it actually doesn't interact with the main lore of Kingdom Hearts very much.
The best one is Dream Drop Distance because it has the
my
stupidest name.
Oh my god. No, Dream Drop Distance is unfucking playable.
But it's got 3Ds for the 3DS. It's good.
Judge Frollo dies twice in two slightly different ways in Dream Drop Distance.
That's awesome. Are you telling me this is a bad game? I'd watch that motherfucker die an infinite amount of times.
You're supposed to be seeing it once from Sora's point of view and once from Riku's point of view, but for some reason, different stuff happens.
That's the Dream Drop Distance.
Yeah, it is.
It's the distance between our memories.
It's so dumb. I hate it so much. It's really bad. You're forced to play a Tron level.
What?
Yeah.
Tron?
That ties in the Tron remake, even though Tron, this is not a joke, the original Tron was already in Kingdom Hearts 2.
That's insane.
Hey man,
I do
it all, yeah.